Hey everybody, welcome to the second PocketCast. This is our version of a podcast. We did one last week just as an experiment to see if anybody really wanted us to do more of them, and apparently the feedback has been good. So here we are, we're back again doing another one. The format will be like last week, so we're going to go through about 8 stories from the last week, things that were interesting that we posted about on Pocketnow regarding smartphone news. And this week we have 3 people joining us, including myself. We still have Evan We still have Evan Blass, managing editor. He got a new microphone, and we've made a lot of improvements to the setup, so you should be able to hear him better. Say hi, Evan.
Hey, guys. Hey, Brandon.
Hey. And we've also got Tony, senior editor, also known as Anton on the site. He's coming from Romania, so he's got a fantastic accent that I wish I had. Say hi, Tony.
Hey, guys. Nice to be here. Thank you.
So yeah, and this podcast we're calling the PocketCast. We're eliminating that word podcast from our vocabulary. Should be distributed not only on YouTube like last time, but also iTunes and Zune. If all goes according to plan, it's a little bit more complicated than I thought it was going to be, but we should be able to get it out there, or at least as a direct download, so you can put it right on your device, listen to it on the way to work. I don't know why you'd want to do that, but so let's get started. We're going to start with what are we starting with?
I think the Inspire.
The Inspire, yes. Just a couple of notes on the Inspire 4G. Of course, this is AT&T's first 4G phone, but it's not really 4G. I mean, it's been certified as a 4G standard, but it's probably 3.75G if you were to define it as anything. And we're actually getting some problems with it. We're talking to AT&T right now, but right now what's happening, and hopefully by the time this PocketCast goes up, we'll have an answer. I'm getting an H+ indicator all the time, and yet I'm not getting HSPA+, which is very deceiving. And, you know, AT&T has advertised that their HSPA+ network is reaching millions and millions of people as if they flipped a switch and everyone lights up. That's not true. They did flip a switch, but it will only turn on HSPA+ in areas that have the, quote, enhanced backhaul, which means that they've upgraded the equipment on cell phone towers and whatnot. But AT&T isn't making it known which areas are getting the enhanced backhaul. So maybe some small corner of New York has HSPA+, while the rest of the country is dark. Or maybe come February 13th, when the Inspire 4G hits, it will be turned on.
Brandon, let me interrupt you for a sec. I think the problem here is that that you're getting an indicator showing that you're getting HSPA+, that you're that you're connected to the network, but you're not actually getting the speeds.
Yep, that's it. It's just misleading, you know.
Okay, gotcha.
That was an interesting sound. In Romania, do they have HSPA+, or is it pretty much all HSDPA?
It's more HSDPA, so we get 7.2 advertised, but it's nothing close to that.
What do you get in real-world testing, best case?
Well, let's say somewhere in between 1.8 and 3.5, if you have full coverage.
Yeah, that's pretty much what we get around here. Evan, have you benchmarked your iPhone 4?
Yeah, it's nothing special.
Nothing special.
Tony, tell everyone how fast your landline connection is.
Landline. Well, let me just say this without advertising my ISP. In Romania, it's the fastest internet and the cheapest one in the whole Europe. We pay like $9 per month, and I have 100 megabytes per second for downloads, and some are close to 10 for uploads. So it's fantastic.
His uploads are faster than my downloads.
That's unbelievable. And what do you actually clock when you go to like speedtest.net?
Well, it's around 84, 86, 90. It depends on the distance to the server.
So Tony's in Romania getting 84 megabits per second down for $9, and in the U.S., I think there's still a tremendous amount of people that don't even have regular broadband yet. It's really interesting. How did that come to be? This is totally off topic, but...
Well, yeah, off topic, and this is another discussion related to salaries and wages. While you are paying some $30 for internet, and it will be, let's say, around a 15th part of your salary. In Romania, people pay for internet somewhere around the 10th or the 8th part of their monthly wages. So it's still expensive if you live and earn your money here.
Got it.
The issue is also somewhat geographic in that it's a lot easier to roll out the infrastructure in a smaller area in Europe than it is over the entirety of the United States.
That's true.
So,
yeah, I mean, I bet Romania doesn't have vast stretches of farmland like we do here.
No, but this internet access is mainly in cities, so don't think that the whole Romania is covered by high-speed internet. No, major cities are, yes, but villages and other lands are not. So I think there are people in Romania, many, that don't even know what a computer is. So don't get me wrong.
Very interesting. Alrighty, well, so let's move on from the Inspire 4G again. Look for the post on Pocketnow and a video showing this in action, and we're waiting to hear back, hopefully within the next hour and a half, from AT&T on this, just to make it fair, because there's got to be something going on here. So let's move on to something we posted on, actually today, and actually several times through the week, about the HTC Saga. We first showed you a picture of what we thought would be HTC's flagship, the Desire 2, basically a phone that looks like... I mean, what does this look like? This is like the...
Not the Desire, maybe?
Yeah.
it's like a rounder version of the Desire HD.
With a bit of imagination.
A little bit Nexus 1. Overall, kind of a bland design. I mean, if this is really HTC's next flagship, they're going very conservative on this one.
Indeed.
So we're seeing some pictures of it, and now today we saw a picture of it with 3 microphone holes, which no one else seems to be noticing. And I guess the thought is that 2 of them are for noise cancellation, and the third is for kind of honing in on the audio when you're filming a video.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm sorry, Connie, continue.
I'm sorry. So I was just asking, could it record maybe stereo sound?
Ooh, that's a possibility. Or if not stereo sound, maybe it's the first Android HTC phone to do 1080p video recording, and they wanted to add a better quality of audio.
Sorry, Evan.
Oh, I was just going to say that it's far from certain that this is going to be a flagship device. I mean, I think we can assume that it's probably the follow-up to the Desire HD, but I think it's also possible that HTC has some other handsets in the works that we just haven't seen yet, including this one called the Pyramid that we really haven't bothered to talk about because there hasn't been much said about it other than it might be one of HTC's first devices to step up beyond the 1 gigahertz or 800 megahertz Snapdragon processors that have basically been in all of their handsets for the last 2 years.
Yeah, and what is to say that the Saga also doesn't have a dual-core processor with a 960 by 540 screen, plus some other cool stuff that maybe Sense 3.0. So it looks a little bit unassuming, but perhaps once we see the spec sheet, it's more than just a conservative designed phone.
One more thing, guys. I smell something fishy here regarding the Saga. I mean, I'm inclined to believe that HTC is doing, say, a controlled leap maneuver. Do you remember how they did it with the Incredible HD and the Thunderbolt? I mean, yeah, they have those prototypes, and most of the pictures that were surfaced on the internet and leaked, they came from Taiwan. I mean, HTC must for sure know which one of their employees got the prototypes.
Sure.
Isn't it something issue here?
So
yeah, because I'll tell you something else. The Vivo, which is going to be the Incredible 2, that's all over Picasso right now. So that's taking quite a few pictures. The Saga hasn't taken anything. So I think HTC is well aware of what's going on about information that's leaking in, and some of it is indeed done strategically.
And if you remember, all these leaks started after our exclusive of the render we found and posted.
That's a good point. Good point. Well, but what would their reason be in doing this?
Well, the same reason they did it for the Thunderbolts. or the incredible HD as it was back then. It's preparing, it's anticipation.
Building buzz.
We have a week from now, we're talking about it, we're advertising it.
We are. Or another theory could be that this device, the Saga, is a prototype, maybe last generation, because it actually looks very last generation, and maybe they're going to come out with something that blows this out of the water, and so they're setting expectations kind of low. You know what I mean?
Well, let me tell you, if this one doesn't come up with a dual-core processor and gingerbread, HTC is losing the game.
Evan's going to have to write another Dear HTC.
That's a game for me.
That was a good one. Cool. Well, let's move on from here. We are going to February 1st, talking about the HTC Mozart being Wi-Fi certified and perhaps heading to T-Mobile in the U.S. It's been kind of quiet with Windows Phone 7 hardware releases, and this isn't really news. This isn't that. We've seen the Mozart before.
Yeah, should I start, or Evan?
Sure, go ahead.
I'm sorry?
Okay, so I don't think there's really much more to the story here. Manufacturers have laid down their cards on the table at the time where, Windows Phone 7 was launched. The devices are the same, well, except the Dell Venue Pro, which is still in and out of markets, and the HTC 7 Pro. So I don't think there will be any change in devices until the second wave of devices come out. And until then, manufacturers are trying to somehow move devices from one region to the other. They are moving the Sprint-exclusive 7 Pro to Europe, and they are moving the Mozart to the US. So I think that's their only option until the second wave comes out.
To their detriment, too, I might add. Because
Yes.
I think the HTC Trophy launching on Horizon and whatever it's going to be, March, April, which is going to be, possibly as much as 6 months after it launched in Europe. When in the first place, it was really sort of, a not all that impressive device, sort of, at least in terms of the Windows Phone 7 devices, the launch devices, it was pretty unremarkable. So I certainly think that 6 months later, when it's going up against, the Atrixes and the Infuses, it just doesn't look very good.
They need to keep the momentum up. This is very typical of Microsoft. They do something pretty great, but too late, and by that time, the competitive landscape has changed significantly. They needed to keep the momentum with Windows Phone 7 by bringing forth a wave of new phones as soon as 6 months later, and in the corporate world, that may seem crazy, but, you got to be agile, and you got to compete a little bit faster than a Mozart or a Trophy 6 months after we already knew about it. It's ridiculous.
Mozart is pretty handsome, though, I will say.
The Mozart is handsome?
I like it. I think it's one of the nicer launch phones. First of all, it's got an 8-megapixel camera. It's got a pretty nice body style compared to some of the other ones, the material that they use, and the shape of it. It's fairly slim. It's pretty compact for this first wave of devices. So I like it.
So I was just saying that, by the way, momentum and second wave of devices. What do you think of these rumors that started these days with Microsoft and Nokia preparing to announce something? Do you think that Nokia will finally adopt Windows Phone 7? And if yes, will it be a second wave device or maybe a first wave device?
There's so many issues at play there. There's the primary issue of how I think Microsoft has envied Nokia for many, many years. I remember going to the Microsoft campus in 2005 for some mobile get-together, and the head guys were talking about Nokia like they were gods. Nokia number one, billions of dollars. We got to get there. They have a great strategy, so it would be no surprise that they would work together. But then how would it fit in? Would Nokia sort of be the premium hardware partner of Microsoft? No, because Microsoft wants to make sure HTC and Samsung and LG have a lot of notoriety to get their devices out. What could they possibly do together?
Well, I think it behooves Microsoft a lot to get as many manufacturers as they can on the Windows Phone 7 boat. It's their same strategy with desktop PCs is, go for quantity and try to get as many OEMs on board as you can. because obviously there's more. Throw as many darts at the dartboard as you can because some of them are going to stick.
Well, they'd have to do something special with Nokia because Nokia's in a position where they could go with Android and make great, put some great software on there and on great hardware. And so if they're going to go, if they're going to date Microsoft exclusively, Microsoft's got to be giving some better deal.
Oh, absolutely not. I can almost guarantee you that it would not be an exclusive relationship. Almost 100% guarantee that Nokia would not give up MeeGo and Symbian to go for a Windows Phone 7 only strategy. I mean, it's almost impossible to see that happen. If anything, I think this would just be added to their stable of platforms. I think Nokia probably looks at HTC and how they've been successful with,
diversity,
with their dual platform strategy of Android and Windows Mobile first, and then Windows Phone now. And it's been working out well for them. HTC just had another record quarter, and I think Nokia sees that and says, what do we have to lose by picking up yet another OS? The worst that's going to happen is it's going to be unsuccessful, but we're sort of in a little bit of dire straits now anyway, so why not take a risk?
And I think it's a win-win situation. I mean, Microsoft wins because they have the new manufacturer, Nokia wins because they are selling devices, and users will win because Nokia is building fantastic phones. Just look at HTC, look at LG, Windows Phone 7s. They all have crappy cameras. Look at Nokia. Look at our Nokia N8 review. It's upcoming. It's fantastic. The hardware is good. The build quality is good. And with Windows Phone 7 on it, I think it will be huge.
Wouldn't it be cool if... Yeah, I agree. I mean, Nokia has really good hardware, and as you implied, Tony, in Adam's upcoming review, he finds the camera on the N8 to sometimes rival his DSLR.
Wow.
It's incredible. What would be awesome, and we kind of talk about this a lot, Evan and I and Tony, about how hardware is so important. It would be awesome if Nokia created these awesome devices. You go to their website and you could fill in a little radio checkbox. I want Windows Phone 7 on this. I want Android 2.3 on this, and it comes a little semi-customized in that respect.
Well, everyone, if you get the chance to see this in the future, you should know the idea came from us.
Right.
And I mean, furthermore, I think it would be awesome for any OEM to come out with sort of a customization platform for smartphones. You choose your CPU, you choose your RAM. This would be
probably... What was that site that we saw a couple months ago, Brandon?
Yeah, I know what you mean. There was a prototype just like it. But I mean, that would be too expensive for the consumer, unfortunately. It would be probably potentially too expensive for the OEM, so that's why they don't do it.
Because all the drivers, and you have to have actually 2 or 3 or more operating systems on the same hardware, so it will be a little bit difficult.
Yeah, and I mean, you never get software upgrades because they'd have to configure for potentially dozens of different types of devices.
Correct.
So I guess the takeaway here is hopefully we see some interesting Nokia Windows Phone 7 hardware, or at least there's a forthcoming wave of Windows Phone 7 devices that keeps...
I think at the very least we could say something big is happening with Nokia, whether it's a move to other platforms or a bigger US push. They've said that something big is going to happen here, a major strategy change, and so we definitely have something to look forward to.
Yeah. All right, let's move on. Let's see. We are talking about on January 31st, we were talking about the Pre-2 on Verizon. We've been talking about the Pre-2 on Verizon for many, many months. I think it was announced back in October. And, HP Palm have their event coming up in a week? And then the Pre-2 is going to launch. Kind of late, don't you think?
Yeah, it's kind of funny. We've seen the Verizon Pre-2 show up just about everywhere but Verizon. It's been on every other retailer site. It's been in ads. You can now buy an unlocked GSM version,
which I actually have right here.
There you go. So, yeah, I don't know about the timing of this. I think it's sort of suspect, and if anything, this is going to end up being a mid to low range web OS device if there is anything else released, I think, or announced.
Yeah.
Could be that Verizon is pulling old Palm models and they will be, let's say, announcing a tablet to replace them.
Well, they'd still need to have a phone.
We're pretty sure that they're going to launch the Pre 2, so I mean that's going to happen. So the question is, where is the Pre 2 then going to sit in a lineup of new WebOS smartphones? You know, presumably Palm has to go higher end now to attract some attention, but you know they may also try to slot something Pixie-like underneath the Pre 2 and try to capture some of that entry-level smartphone market.
Now, well, if Verizon pulls this off, then they will have the iPhone 4, the Thunderbolt for Android, and the Palm Pre 2 to WebOS. So I think they will cover pretty much the majors, except Windows Phone 7.
Yes. Have you used WebOS, Tony?
No, unfortunately not.
Is it available in Romania?
No. Maybe if I import or buy from another country, but as far as I know, no carriers or other shops or e-tailers are selling Palm devices.
Yeah, I haven't seen it on any Romanian websites either, and I do look at those actually.
Really?
Yeah.
Have you used WebOS, Evan?
Yeah, I wouldn't say I'm an expert in it, but I definitely have some working familiarity with it.
I think it's interesting. So many people agree and say this all the time that WebOS is awesome. I mean, the concept of the cards and the way that it works is awesome. It's already stale and dead, and the hardware is horrible. It's not horrible, but the screen resolution is low, the battery life is still not great, the keyboard's junky. So, presumably the tide will turn come next week, and they definitely need high-end devices and with on-screen keyboards and high-resolution screens, and
Can I go a little bit off topic here while talking about WebOS? I mean, not totally off topic. There's an online survey coming and going for like 3 or 4 days now. It's the OS Bowls Finals.
Oh, yeah, something.
Yeah, HP WebOS is in the finals with, guess who? Windows Phone 7.
Huh.
And I'm looking at the current results, and HP WebOS has 49.72% of votes, and Windows Phone 7 has 50.28%.
That just means that the system got gamed.
Yeah, somebody somewhere most probably published something saying people go vote for Windows Phone 7. I mean, I'm a Windows Phone 7 fan, but it can't be. Windows Phone 7 beat Apple iOS for the finals. So it's strange.
I think I found the reason. It's posted on XD Developers, and there's like 1,000 replies. So.
That's right.
So that's kind of a difficult thing to determine, because naturally people are going to vote for the operating system that they use.
They are using, yeah.
Or they're going to try to game the system and make a winner out of something that shouldn't be a winner or wouldn't be a winner.
Bada for the win.
Bada for the win. Hey, that's not such a bad little platform there.
Oh yeah? Have we even reviewed a Bada phone yet?
We didn't, because it's not technically a smartphone. I mean,
they are smartphones.
Well, they're not in the context that we define the word in.
They're full platforms with SDKs and developers. They're very much an entry level smartphone platform.
Isn't it the same like Brew MP, like dumb smartphones or smart dumb phones?
No, I think that it's more akin to WebOS. I mean, it's got they've got an SDK. There are people developing for Bada. So yeah, it's its own legitimate platform. Certainly they're not monetizing it the way that Android or iOS is, but yeah, it's and I think that they're iterating. They're already on Bada
version 2,
1.5 now. So yeah, it's becoming something, and I'm a little bit surprised because it's pushing the needle a little bit. It's starting to show up, on when they do evaluations and surveys of of what platforms have percentages, and it's starting to actually make it into those surveys as having 1 or 2% of the market.
It would help if they launched in the U.S. One of the problems is that why would someone choose Bada when they could choose like Android, which looks a lot like Bada in most cases?
Good point.
I don't know.
The phones, I think, are the hardware. They're pushing it as less expensive. You know, with Android, there's still some licensing fees associated with it. Even though you're not paying Google, you have to pay all these companies that have patents that, you know, Android may or may not infringe upon. But with Bada, you know, that's Samsung's homebrewed OS. So, you know, they're paying very little to roll it out on a lot of devices, and that can bring the price of the hardware down.
So you say that the Bada device would be, let's say, more budget-oriented than a low-end Android device like the HTC Wildfire?
I think they started out like that, but there's some Bada phones now that aren't cheap. I mean, like the Wave 2, I don't think that's entry level by any means. So I don't know. It'll be interesting to see where Bada goes, because it is making more of a splash than I thought.
And you know, Samsung is smartly diversifying beyond Windows Phone 7 and Android, which HTC sort of is trying to do with the Brew MP. I mean, if it's not going to happen, but if Android fails and Windows Phone 7 fails at the same time, again, not going to happen.
At the same time.
You know, if people
spontaneous combustion.
If the world ends, well, then HTC is left with what? Well, Brew MP products.
iOS, maybe?
Yeah, right. Well, that would be impossible. Just a note of clarification. I think you mentioned, Evan, that when an OEM puts Android on a phone, they don't have to pay Google a licensing fee. They do have to pay a licensing fee if they include any of the above. Android Market, you know, Gmail, Google Maps, any Google application. And I think they get a fair amount of revenue from that, because most OEMs include it.
Yeah, every device has it.
Really, I would think that Google would be paying them to take it like they do with those search agreements, because it behooves Google to get their products on as many devices as possible, while OEMs have a choice of going with Google stuff or possibly Bing, or, you know, their own homebrewed applications.
Well, I think that I sort of look at it the other way. An OEM would want to have the Google search and would want to have Google products. There's an exception to this. Arcos, which has a line of 2.8, 4.3, 5.1, all these different, they call them tablets, they run Android. A lot of them, especially the low-end, really cheap ones that are like $150, don't come with the Android market. They come with the Arcos market, which links out to like 1,000 apps. And they're doing that to keep the cost down at the detriment to the experience of the user.
Interesting.
Yeah, don't buy those.
PocketCast is so informative.
Oh boy.
We should start listening in.
We should.
Right? I'm going to start listening to the PocketCast.
we have 3 subscribers already.
Very fun. All right, well, let's move on from the Pre-2. Hopefully there's going to be some really cool stuff coming out of WebOS soon, because WebOS is good. WebOS is good. All right, so let's talk about the Yahoo Mail issue. Turns out that the mysterious source of Windows Phone 7 data usage came from Yahoo Mail. But I guess... Even
though it was first suspected to be HTC, right?
The hub. Yeah, the hub. It seems that Windows Phone 7 is quite locked down to avoid any application taking control of really anything and doing anything negative. I gotta wonder how this could have... Do you guys know the technicalities behind this?
Not actually, but there's a post from Rafael Rivera who is explaining it very well. And he's been the one, if I recall well, that pointed the initial finger towards Yahoo Mail, and he's the one that is pointing the finger towards Yahoo having the same problem on iOS. Because if you remember, Yahoo, to its own defense, said that there is no problem with the Yahoo Mail application on other platforms. Mm-hmm. This was after apologizing, but they started pointing fingers at Microsoft. And this Rafael Rivera guy has... made some tests, and guess what? iOS has that problem too. The same problem, only the difference is that is less noticeable. The iOS version of Yahoo Mail holds for 50 messages, if I recall well, from the server, while Windows Phone 7 fetches around 200. Ooh. And that's the biggest difference.
So that's the culprit, is that right?
Yeah.
And I think to answer your question, Brandon, is that there's certain developers, big developers like Netflix or Yahoo, who have more access to the core APIs and the code, the native code than say your average development house.
Right. Cool. Well, I don't know if there's much more to discuss about this. Do you guys have any other?
Well, no, I just say it's not fair from Yahoo to point the finger back at Microsoft. Now, I'm not defending Microsoft. I say props to Microsoft for actually admitting the problem, and props to Yahoo for apologizing for the problem, but they should have stopped here. Instead, they started pointing fingers again, and I think this got a little bit ugly.
Everyone needs to just hug it out.
Yeah.
Hug it out. All right, well, let's move on. This is a story I wanted to cover because, well, I guess you'll find out why. Kin Studio closes permanently. Kin, which also technically doesn't fit under the smartphone umbrella, of course, was launched in May of 2010, and it was canceled in, July. So 3 months later, this project that Microsoft spent millions of dollars on, they had a big press conference about, they killed it. And now, the poor Kin users, the 5 of them,
slam.
All right. They can't use their phone as it was intended. I think they should all get rebates or something, or.
Well, I think there was a story back in December when the first rumors got out that Verizon is actually killing the Kin Studio, that they will give out free 3G phones for Kin users as a reparation. Yeah, I don't know. Do you know anything about this? Did this go through all the way?
I remember hearing that too, but I'm not. Honestly, that there really were probably so few Kin sold that it just really didn't. If there was an exchange program, it just really didn't make the news because there wasn't a lot of people taking advantage of it.
I was watching the Engadget show on the way to, Las Vegas for CES, and I watched an old episode where they were talking about Kin before Kin came out, and I forget who. One of the guys was saying, hey, I think Kin could work. It's hitting a market that doesn't have a particular phone targeted at them. And then the other side said this is the biggest piece of garbage to ever have graced our computer monitors. And then we wrote, of course, why, the 5 reasons why Kin died. And it's just been sort of fun to watch because that is just.
Well, I think Kin is a product that it could have worked, 2 or 3 years ago, but I think at this point Microsoft sort of underestimated the sophistication of the market that they were looking at, and they thought that teens and tweens wanted dumbed down smartphones when in fact they just want regular smartphones. And if you go into any school, kids are using iPhones and Android and really Blackberries, even just regular smartphones. They don't want something that's
stupid.
What should I say?
Slow.
What's the right word? Stupid is not the right word. They're sort of the functionality has been reduced. They've been dumbed down a little bit.
Yeah.
And about those 5 users, you remember that there was this rumor that there were 500 or so Kins sold?
Yeah.
Adam wrote a post on 7th of July 2010, and he was saying that according to a certain Kin application on Facebook, there were at that time around almost 9,000 users of the Kin application on Facebook, which implies approximately the same amount of Kins being sold. And I'm looking at that page right now, and we have somewhere close to 2,000 monthly active users. So it was a decrease in.
Oh, that's interesting. So maybe if you don't log in, or I guess what's happening is, I don't know, why would that go down? People...
Well, I buy a device, I don't like it, and I put it somewhere and I don't use it anymore.
Or you return it.
Yeah.
Yeah. On that note, Evan, with this sort of trying to be a low-cost, accessible smartphone for young people, the data plan was as much as a standard smartphone, which just didn't make sense.
Yeah, that was a fail.
They should have had like a tween data plan, no data during school hours.
Right, yeah, that would have been possible.
You know what's funny, guys? Thinking about when we were in school, we didn't have, maybe we had smartphones. I didn't have a smartphone until I graduated.
Wasn't that just last year, Brandon?
Yeah. I'm not that young. It's just funny to think about. Like, if we had iPhones in class, if we had Droid X's in class, we could, I guess, would it make school better or worse? We could text our friends before we get to lunch. I'm sure that there's many rules prohibiting that, but it's just fun to think about.
Yeah, it would make it worse. I mean, phones are already distracting for adults at jobs. Imagine like kids who are trying to learn in school where they're already kind of bored.
Yeah, it's a distraction. One time, my brother, who actually started Pocketnow, had handed me down an iPack, one of the big iPacks with the expansion sleeve, and one of the add-ons to the expansion sleeve was an Ethernet adapter. And I remember in my high school, they had, plug-ins for the computer stations. And one day after school, I was so excited. I was like, wow, I can get internet on this little screen. I plug in the Ethernet cable to my iPack expansion sleeve. I plug it the other side into the little station. And I'm like surfing the web on this QVGA transflective display. It was heaven.
Yeah, I remember getting that feeling using like a Palm Tungsten C for the first time, which had, I think it was the first Palm with Wi-Fi, and yeah, it was one of those tiny little screens. But just to see these like great like color web pages showing up, pretty much how they were supposed to look on the desktop, it was just amazing.
What do you guys think would make, let's say, if Kin Studio made it to Windows Phone 7, would it boost Windows Phone 7?
I love the idea of remote phone management. The HTC Desire HD and the Inspire, all those new devices can let you access htcsense.com, and depending on what day of the week it is, you'll get different functionality. But I love the idea of being able to send text messages through the web browser, having all your photos synced to the cloud. I think Windows Phone 7 would hugely benefit from a Kin Studio-like product. I mean, think about it. Android has web cloud products in sort of different pieces. iOS doesn't have anything like it, and it could be a real thing to differentiate.
So what do you guys think? Can we expect Kin Studio to come to Windows Phone 7?
I hope so.
I mean, haven't they said that they're going to try to bring something like that? I mean, obviously it's not going to be called Kin Studio, but
I hope so.
I can imagine that there'll be more. What was what's the name of the other Microsoft service?
Windows Live?
No, the one that was on Windows Mobile 6.5, the cloud.
What was it?
My phone.
My phone. Yes.
Yeah, I can see that sort of thing expanding and becoming a little bit more user friendly. I don't think my phone was necessarily as optimized as it could have been for the average user.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was a little bit technical. I mean, yeah, there's no doubt that this would be a winning thing to do. It's already been proven a little bit with their previous cloud products, but again, it's about timing. Are they going to wait until 2012 to bring this out, or are they going to do it soon when they strike while the iron's hot, hopefully?
Well, if it comes to Windows Phone 7, I think it will come somewhere in the second half when we can expect the second major update for Windows Phone 7. So this is my guess.
Yeah, and by then, Microsoft's working on the next update of Windows Phone 7. It's probably done, and then they're working on this bigger update. By then, we'll know about iOS 4. Or what are we up to now? 5. And it's gonna have stuff like that we can't even imagine. And Microsoft's gonna come through this awesome update that would have been cool today, but it's just 10 months too late. I'm being really down on Microsoft, but sometimes it just frustrates me, the whole timing. It's just really puts them at a disadvantage sometimes. Anyhow, all right. So Kin Studio closes. That's probably the last thing we'll ever say about Kin.
R.I.P. KIN.
Yeah, R.I.P. KIN.
That site's still up.
Oh, I hope so. Yeah, everyone should check this out. I think it was R.I.P. KIN.
Right.
We're all checking. We should edit out this part. No, we'll leave it in. I don't know. It's not here. Anyway. Next thing I want to talk about here is something that I really don't want to talk about because things aren't working out the way that I thought they would or hoped they would.
I know what we're going to get into because this is something that makes me sad.
Yeah. So, this is about Honeycomb. And, we had the Google event, I think it was on Tuesday, which would be February 1st. Oh, it was Wednesday, 2nd. And we were hoping very much that we would see something about the next version of Android on smartphones, thinking that there would be a version of Honeycomb for phones. And it would kind of make sense. We've had a ton of posts about how this could work. But they didn't talk anything about Honeycomb on phones, which sort of makes sense. They just released Gingerbread. Android release cycles for phones is like 6 to 8 months, so we'll see something this summer. But it would have been nice to hear at least one utterance of an indication of what the next version of Android will sort of focus on for phones.
Well, I'd say it doesn't surprise me that much because, first of all, the Gingerbread, which is fresh, and second of all, I think we should have seen this one coming because I think I remember somewhere on the way we saw some rumors, some hearsay about Honeycomb being actually a tablet-only platform. And it's normal with the market being dominated by Apple and iPad. Of course, there's Galaxy Tab and there's the upcoming Tab 2, but they both run Android 2.2 Froyo, so come on. They should come out with something to bring that competition to a point where maybe Apple will actually start losing points of the market.
Now, Brandon, didn't you watch that interview with, was it Matthias Duarte from...
Yeah, I've got it right on my screen now, and I wrote a post right after I saw that. Josh Topolsky from Engadget interviewed him at CES, and I could have sworn, I listened closely, I could have sworn he said something to the effect of, you're going to see Android, or you're going to see Honeycomb come to phones. Now, what he probably meant is you're going to see parts of Honeycomb come to a future version of Android, and
right.
I think that kind of threw us off a little bit, or threw me off. But I mean, there's a lot of, I guess there's a little bit less potential in sort of bringing the Honeycomb experience with the new, what do they call it, holographic interface, the new home screen manager, the buttonless design.
Those stacks are kind of cool. I think those could translate to smartphones, especially the ones, with now that we're moving up to QHD resolution.
Yeah.
Yeah. Go on, Brandon.
I was just going to say, it would be awesome if in a future version of Android, you could have a tablet mode that you could turn on or a phone mode. So people with good eyesight and large screen phones could use sort of the split pane view in certain applications. That would be awesome.
Wouldn't that imply maybe a hypothetical minimum requirement of 5-inch displays, at least? I mean, it will be difficult on 3.7, 3.8, or even 4.3s.
Yeah, it would, which is why it would be nice to be able to turn it off. On a 4.3-inch display, looking at a dual-pane email view probably would be reasonable.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
It seriously depends on how good your eyesight is, and also, of course, how small they can get the pixels on an Android phone.
Mm-hmm.
So we are going to keep our ear close to the ground about the next version of Android naturally. Since we don't cover tablets, we're trying to give it a smartphone spin. So as Android Honeycomb comes around to tablets, we'll be diving in a little bit to see what we can learn about, what Google has in store for the next version of Android, because it's always fun to look ahead. Boom.
Indeed it is. We love looking ahead. That's one of our main things here.
That is right. All right.
Never behind, always ahead.
Full speed. All right, so next thing, and we've got just a couple more things to talk about. This PocketCast is probably going to be a little bit shorter than the previous one, for better or for worse. So the next thing we're talking about is the Motorola Atrix 4G. Kind of a surprise, but not really if you think about it for a sec. The Atrix 4G with the dock, whether you get the laptop or or maybe it's just with the laptop. If you get the dock, you have to pay the tethering fee, which is another $20 a month. And people were kind of outraged about this because, you're sort of tethering, but not really. What do you guys think about this?
Well,
I think
go on.
I think in one sense it's reasonable because you are using it. You are using the internet with a device that's going to naturally be pulling down more data than you would or could with the smartphone itself. Especially because they have that full Firefox browser on there. Presumably there's going to be a lot more video watching and flash browsing, whatever. So in one sense I can see it's basically like tethering your regular phone to a netbook. Sure. And why shouldn't you have to pay that extra fee? But on another hand, they're selling this as one of the integral features of the handset. One of the main reasons why you should buy it. Mm-hmm. So it leaves a little bit of a sour taste in your mouth that you should have to pay an extra X dollars per month to be able to take advantage of what's sort of being sold or implied a little bit as a core functionality.
Yeah.
Do you guys remember, I think we reviewed it approximately 2 years ago, the Celio Red Fly companion.
I knew you were going to say that.
Yeah. And actually, that one was a dummy device. It wasn't operating on its own. My question is, the Atrix's dock, is it operating on itself? Or is it tied to the Atrix and they are forming one?
I don't think it has its own OS or anything. I think all that it brings to the equation is the ability to have a full Firefox browser as opposed to your standard Android browser when you're just using the handset.
So then, what's the justification of a tethering fee if the Atrix and the dock are one?
Because it's the usage the usage scenarios, I think.
So if I have a keyboard or a larger screen, I tend to consume more internet than I would be on my Atrix alone.
Right, I think that's the theory there.
And I think actually the Atrix dock, speaking of the laptop, there's nothing inside of it but a screen, keyboard, and a mouse. I'm pretty darn sure that everything's happening on the phone, thanks to the dual core and the 1 gigabyte of RAM.
Absolutely.
It does sound like they might be charging quite a bit of money though for this dumb terminal.
Well, I think that the laptop was there a price? I think it was $150.
Not it. We're now hearing closer to like $400 or $450.
Really? Which I guess the multimedia dock was $150. The thing you can connect to your.
Mm-hmm.
What I think they should do is, and I mean you're gonna make people unhappy either way. You could either charge them extra data and add to their monthly bill, and people hate monthly bills because when you get a smartphone, it's already much higher than you were paying with a feature phone. They could do that, or they could increase the price of the little laptop, by a significant amount, and sort of have all of the extra data fees paid for 2 years or whatever.
Well, I think many will turn their backs on the Atrix dock and AT&T for that matter for the tethering fee. But I think the real loser here, besides the user, is Motorola itself.
Because this is their sort of first attempt at something like this, and people aren't going to like it. Is that?
Would you buy a dock if you had to pay a tethering fee for that dock to use with your phone? I wouldn't.
Use the money to buy a freaking a tablet or a MacBook Air or something else that's thin and light and can compute.
Yeah, Evan?
I think people will buy it in the same way that people bought that projector that tacked on to the LG Expo, even though it wasn't a very good projector, and for a couple bucks more you could have bought your own dedicated projector that hooked into the video out and gave you a better picture, brighter picture, whatever. But the fact that it's integrated with the phone, people, they're into their phones. They want to get the accessories for it, and for people where money isn't as much of an issue, I think they're definitely going to pick this thing up.
We could probably go back and forth all day about this product, and we would probably both be equally right. But I think that this idea is flawed, just like the Palm Folio was flawed, just like the Celio Red Fly was flawed. You could you could argue that the technology has improved vastly for this laptop thing, but I'm thinking about use case scenarios, and I can't think of I mean, if I'm going to grab something substantial, and the laptop dock is very thin, but it is substantial, I'm going to get something that can do more than browse Firefox and let me remotely access my phone. I'm going to bring my tablet. I'm going to bring my, my laptop or something.
Right.
I think they're really looking at this as a netbook replacement, and in that sense, it is. It's when the Atrix has basically the specs of a netbook. A dual-core processor, 1 gigahertz or higher, and a gigabyte of RAM, and that's what they are.
Yeah, but
no fancy graphics or anything. So I think it's sort of reasonable. But they probably should have priced it lower if it is truly going to be in the $400 range, because you could buy a real netbook with its own processor and whatnot, and then you can be talking on the phone in one hand and netbooking in the other.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I suppose the real test for this, or the result of whether this is successful, is whether in 6 months, a year, we still see this product for sale, whether we see additional Motorola phones come out with this capability. I'm going to predict that it's not going to be successwill, but Evan, you seem to disagree, and I guess it's kind of impossible to determine.
I didn't say it's going to be a success, but I think they will sell some of them, and I think it'll probably be more popular than, say, a Folio or a Red Fly, because it's being marketed. Well, it's not being marketed. It is an accessory that is Motorola branded and is meant to go with the phone, as opposed to these other things, which were especially Celio, which was sort of a third-party thing. You're not quite sure how your phone is going to interact with it, and there were some problems there with their OS. So not their OS, just the configuration between or the communication between the devices. So I think that this will be more successful than those, but I don't think it's going to be a blowout hit. But you never know.
Well, I think that unless it's a blowout hit, we're not going to see it come back, because if they sell 10,000 of these things, they're gonna sigh and go to their accounting and say, okay, we have to write down all the money we spent on R&D for this thing and development. This thing has to sell a lot for it to be
I
viable.
think they actually probably haven't figured out exactly how many of these they need to sell per 100 Atrixes sold. And if it's above that number, then it's considered a success. If it's below, it's all set up ahead of time.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure that our metric of success is going to be the same as Motorola's. They might think that if you sell one dock for every 1,000 Atrixes, that's their target. And if they do better than that, bam, successful.
Well, curious to hear from the people listening to this. Leave a comment. Let us know if the Atrix dock or the Atrix laptop is something that appeals to you. Along those lines, we're going to start doing call-ins in the near future for the PocketCast, so that we can actually have people come in and talk about it, rather than listen to us yap about what we think. So let's move on that note to the final thing we've got for today. iOS 4.3 potentially coming for the iPhone and the iPad and all those other iOS devices on February 14th. And, of course, that will bring the personal hotspot feature. And also, more importantly, I think, is the gesture support. Evan, you are a iPhone user currently.
Why you gotta let everyone know that?
Sorry.
What? You're calling me an iSheep in front of America. No, I like my iPhone. I don't particularly care for all the gestures stuff, and I'm not going to be using it as a mobile hotspot, so none of these things interest me particularly, but, I think at this point iOS is very polished, and, there's not these huge features that they can add to it, like in the beginning when, we need to add copy and paste now, or multitasking. Most of the basic smartphone features and some more advanced ones are already taken care of, so now they're sort of adding, value-added features, or what some people would consider value-added features.
Well, I don't see any reason for the gestures. Okay, 2-finger gestures are okay. 3-finger gestures, okay, let's say it's okay. But 4 or 5-finger gestures on a small screen of a smartphone, that's hilarious. So I'd rather, and this might sound strange, I'd rather use that nose dialing app and actually... with my nose with the iPhone rather than have a 5-finger gesture to bring up, I don't know, Task Manager or something.
I unlocked my phone today with my nose, thinking how cool it would be to have that nose dialer application.
So Pocket now gives a 1-finger gesture to do multi-finger gestures, in other words?
Well, wait. You guys do, but I think that... okay, so the multi-fingers is kind of annoying, especially people with large hands. But the idea of being able to, as an additional way to multitask, swipe right, swipe left... I mean, usually when you're multitasking, you're bouncing between 3 apps at the most. Maybe the web, email, and your contacts list or something. And in Android, in iOS, you have to do some action that is kind of unnatural. Double tap of the home button in iOS, a tap and hold of the home button in Android to get up your list of previously used applications. To swipe right, to swipe left, that is so fast and easy, and I really hope they're going to have this in iOS 4.3, and I hope it comes to Android or some third-party developer figures out how to do it.
Yeah.
I left you guys
speechless.
speechless.
All right, well, Brandon's clearly more cutting edge than us now, I think. I think this is a sign Tony and I are getting kind of old.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, so I'm excited for iOS 4.3. Although my micro SIM is dead, and I can't use my iPhone because I deactivated my AT&T account to use Google Voice. So
I'm not even on 4.2 yet, actually.
You are living in the past, man.
Well, I was waiting for this jailbreak, this untethered jailbreak, which it looks like just happened this weekend. So it looks like I will be upgrading soon.
Have you done any really cool, amazing jailbreak tricks?
Have I? No. I basically, at first, I just kind of did it because I didn't want to... It was more, for the... not to actually have done it, but just to make myself sort of feel better that having moved from Windows Mobile 6.5, which was really unlocked. So, I sort of did it, just for the heck of it. But I have put a few apps on there, nothing, totally exciting. I think the most exciting thing that you can do with it is to trick the phone into thinking that it's on Wi-Fi when it's actually on 3G.
Oh, that's good.
That seems to come in handy for quite a few applications. But other than that, I mean, for the average person, there's not a huge need to jailbreak because there's so many apps that do, almost everything you need, just on your regular non-jailbroken phone.
Absolutely. I want to add a bonus topic, and I'm calling it bonus because if people want to leave us now, we're at the hour mark, then that's fine. But on the topic of front-facing cameras, I was going to write a bit of an editorial about this. It's funny because... the story briefly goes that in Europe they had front-facing cameras well before they did in the United States. And Tony will tell you that it's a feature that's okay to have, but you don't use it that much. Is that accurate, Tony?
Right. Yeah.
And then so in the U.S. we started to see front-facing cameras with the Evo 4G. They were first, and you had quick video chat, and then the iPhone 4 had FaceTime, and now a lot of the new high-end smartphones are having video chat, but anyone that I know that has a front-facing camera has used it 1 or 2 times, and they only used it those 1 or 2 times just to see what it's like. I kind of think that front-facing cameras are going to go away soon. I know it's a value add and it's good for marketing material, but no one's using it. And what do you guys think?
I think as they start to get tied in more to desktop applications, which is starting to happen now that Skype is bringing video calling to the handsets, and FaceTime has opened up to Macs as well. I think it'll start getting used more as there's more interoperability between the platforms. If I can talk to someone on Android, not just another iPhone or iOS user,
right.
I might be more inclined to do it. But that being said, in general, I think there's only a very small portion of the population that wants to make regular calls. The technology's been around for landline video calls for years and years, and no one wants it. And there's a reason for that.
It's inconvenient and it's inefficient. People like text messages so much because boom, you get it done. You don't have to say hello, how are you? Because no one likes to talk to each other these days. It's the future. And so video chat takes it to the opposite extreme. You got to see their face. You got to make sure your hair's done up or your pants are on or whatever you're doing.
That would be a deal breaker for you, Brandon.
Yeah. What do you think about front-facing cameras, Tony?
I'm just calculating something here, and I was about to ask you something. Well, we have front-facing cameras in Europe for 4 years now, and as you said, I agree. I used it, let's say, for 3 or 4 times in my life. First one was for testing purposes, and second one was maybe for me to justify where I was. And maybe this thing could get more popular if the rates were lower. Could you tell me approximately what the rates per minute are for video calls in the US? I'm just calculating to make a comparison with Romania, for instance.
Well, I mean, making a video call doesn't cost anything. Beyond it will, if you're using iOS Face or any of these, it's just using your data. So it doesn't actually cost. I think that's actually a difference that a lot of people aren't aware of. In Europe, you actually have to pay per minute for video chat, where in the US it's just built over the internet connection.
Well, in Romania, for instance, let's say Vodafone, because I'm a Vodafone subscriber, we pay around 0.31 cents, this is US dollar cents, for 1 minute of video calling. So wonder why they're not using it.
Well, that's a big roadblock.
Yeah.
And another roadblock is that wasn't FaceTime supposed to become open?
It has been. It's on Macs now.
I mean,
I think it'll be on PCs too. No.
Well, I meant, Steve Jobs, when he had the keynote in whatever month it was last year, talking about the iPhone 4, he said FaceTime would be open so other OEMs, presumably HTC and Samsung, could integrate this into other operating systems, and it just hasn't happened yet.
Yeah, to my knowledge, that has not happened yet.
And that's a really big missed opportunity because, everyone's using Skype chat, or no one's. Going with our thesis that no one's using this stuff, you got Quick and Skype and other things like that. Final note: I just got an email back from AT&T about this issue, and I'm scanning it real quick. You're going to see the post on Pocketnow Sunday evening. I'm kind of excited about this post because it's a little bit annoying and slightly outraging that this is happening. Let me just scan this. Blah blah blah. Okay, so what our contact has done is appropriately pasted their stance on HSPA Plus, which is that let's see. Yeah, AT&T is the only company committed to delivering 4G using both HSPA Plus and LTE, which is great. Not really answering my question about why the Inspire 4G is constantly showing an H Plus when it's not actually on the HSPA Plus, but I'm going to look closer at that. Nothing really stands out in this email.
Well, because it technically is on the HSPA Plus network, it's just not getting those speeds. To me it seems like, it's like when you're at the baseball game, you can get 4 bars, but you might not be able to make a phone call. So you're getting a signal. It's just not the signal that you were expecting.
Alas, I don't think that's the case because if I go into mobile network settings, it clearly shows that I'm on HSDPA. I think it's just a simple matter of the indicator being misleading. Just that's it.
So it's the same icon for 2 different types of connection?
Yeah. In fact, there is no 3G icon. I was looking through the manual that they sent, which is something that I never ever do, and the system indicators are either H+, and I'm reading this off the manual, which says 4G available, or H+ with 2 arrows, which means you're connected to 4G. That's kind of okay. Fired up, but okay, not a big deal.
Whatever.
We care too much about phones, everybody. And
details.
That's what matters, yes. All right, so I think that concludes the second Pocket Cast. Hopefully you enjoyed this. Again, we're new at this, and if we messed up or didn't do something you liked, let us know. Or if you liked it and you're looking forward to the next one, let us know that too. Thank you, Tony and Evan, for joining me on the second Pocket Cast.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us, Brandon.
All right, and that's it. Thanks, guys.